Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again at the Spirit of Liberty broadcast. Really hope you are enjoying these programs. I know we are enjoying doing them. I really hope we're not the only ones having fun, and I don't think we are. I don't think we are. I do think some people aren't enjoying these. I think some people didn't enjoy last week's program, which just makes it all the more fun for us.
Yeah.
But we have something very special for next week that we are going to add. So we will say more about that in a little bit. But again, we appreciate you joining us this morning at the Spirit of Liberty broadcast as we try to get everybody excited about church and just hopefully we put you in the right frame of mind. We try not to get into the real controversial stuff and subjects that get you kind of down in the dumps. And that's hard to do right now. If we talk about current events, it's going to get you down in the dumps. But we tend to try to avoid these things. But at the same time, we have fun either way. And last week, I want to talk a little bit about last week's program. So obviously, I thought last week's program was a big hit.
I think it was one of the best shows we've had yet, honestly.
I think so.
Some really good discussions on there. I
think all the normal people thought it was great too.
Yeah, So that's the thing. When we're analyzing how a show was received, you've got two different groups of people. Trendies and normal people. Mm-hmm. If the trendies get offended, normal people are probably going to like it, which means it's a good show.
Right.
And they definitely got offended. I don't even think that there was anything on there specifically that offended them. I think it was just the fact that you and Nathan Rager did a show together that was offensive.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Once this is the way it is in just the online world. When you blacklist somebody, everybody's supposed to honor the blacklisting. Mm-hmm. And when people don't do that, it makes these people feel like they don't have power. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm going to say something really bad about this guy so everyone will be afraid to talk about him or talk to him, be friends with him.
Yeah.
And it gives them a feeling of power. They want to feel like they've got him left, kicked him to the street corner. And then other people come along and are like, I don't care what y'all think. And that bothers them.
Well, there was another sect of people that got offended too. Just the old IFB. Got mad that Nathan Rager, a couple people randomly popping up.
Yeah.
Wondering what Nathan Rager was doing with that new IFB villain, Tommy McMurtry.
Well, anytime in the independent Baptist world when they see anybody do anything independently, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
And
that's insanity. I think you could be independent.
Yeah, so nobody hold it against Pastor Rager that he went on this program with me. Okay. I mean, I did not give him a questionnaire to fill out about doctrines and things. I know he doesn't agree with us in everything, but unlike these people act like if you don't believe exactly like us, we think you're heretics and treat you like garbage. And no, that's more the other way around. Mm-hmm. And so, I hated to see anybody getting upset with him over that because I'm always thankful for any IFB preachers that want to have anything to do with me.
Right.
I kind of feel like I've felt for a long time that I've, like I have in 2020 where you always feel like you have leprosy or AIDS, because you always got to cover your face like you're sick or something like that. I've been feeling that way for the last several years.
In the fundamental
Baptist world. And I can promise you this too. You guys don't even know what it's about, but we will probably offend all the IFB with our We Ain't Changing segment this week.
Good.
Only I know what it's about this week. And this is something near and dear to my heart. And this will get me on the bad side of the mainstream IFB.
Now, does that mean the trendies are really going to like it?
No.
Okay,
I don't think I don't think the trendies will like it. I don't know.
Old pads.
Yeah, the trendies, they might like it better. I think they'll get less upset by it. But probably mainly, too, because I'm not using any of them as an example. Mm-hmm. So the trendies are kind of going to get a pass. But before we go into our preaching clip of the week and before we go into our We Ain't Changing segment, I do want to talk about next week's program. So the plan is to have a live call-in show. And so we are going to have a show where you can be a part of it. You can call in and talk to us and tell us what you think about the program, what you like, what you don't like. We might even take some suggestions. We'll kind of focus group it. We constantly keep adding things and changing things in this program, And so this isn't church. Okay, when it comes to church, we ain't changing. Okay, but when it comes to this program, we might add some things, we might do some stuff. And so if you have any suggestions, you can call in. Also too, for those that we offended on last week's program, I want to extend an invitation to them to also call in. In fact, I will give them my private number to make sure they can get through in a time slot where they can call in and they can have the last word on this. So I do think this is just kind of my personal policy. If I talk about somebody publicly, I owe them an opportunity to speak to me.
That's fair.
I think that's just fair. Yeah. And so I said some things about these people, and not that much. I didn't think I'd really said anything until I watched one of the responses. And then I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of mean. But I got an explanation, but they're going to have to call and talk to me to get it. So yeah, it's out there. I'm not sabotaging them. I'm not playing a trick on them. I've offered others the same opportunity, but they never want to take it. I told the recovering fundamentalists they could call in on the show where we talked about them, but there was no way they were going to do that. They were afraid of what I was going to do to them. Yeah, and I was literally going to let them have the last word.
You're just doing clickbait. You're just trying to draw attention to yourself because they're so big.
Right. Right. I'm trying to build off their fame, I guess. Yeah. And as if I don't have enough negative attention in the world right now. The Twitter world is not, in the YouTube world is a separate world. And these people don't even have a clue how many enemies I have out there how much attention I've received over the last couple
of years. If anyone from Twitter is watching this and you think that our church is trying to benefit off of you, or like we're just some random church in the middle of the woods looking for attention, just go on YouTube and just search Tommy McMurtry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on Google.
Go on Google.
Yeah. Go on Google. Go on Liberty Baptist Church. This is not the church's first rodeo.
Yeah.
The haters and the people that came after us last time were a lot bigger than you were.
Way bigger, way more vile.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more. I mean, yeah. So the thing is, literally what it is when we go after the trendies, it literally is just fun. That's just it. And so when we do these things and it succeeds in getting their attention, we're entertained.
Yeah.
And when we see the responses and the reactions, we're entertained. In fact, I wore a white shirt last week on purpose just to help trigger these people. It was funny because it wasn't planned. We all wore gray suits too, which was kind of funny. But and I normally don't even wear my suit during the program, but I did that just to trigger them. And I saw people on Twitter and stuff leaving the comments about it. And I thought
matching suits.
Yeah, and I was like, mission accomplished. That's the great thing about the trendies. It's the littlest things you can do, because they're offended by microaggressions.
Yeah.
And me wearing that white shirt was a microaggression, and it did its job.
People are so fragile.
They are. They're very, very fragile people.
Bones made of glass, skin made of paper.
Oh, mercy.
Good
yeah.
night.
And, some of the people in the front lines, they can take some stuff. The one guy took it pretty good that Rager said he looked like Rachel Maddow with the Ulysses Grant beard, which was really funny. He took that really good, but it's their followers. It's the people in their comment sections. It's the people that leave the comments on the YouTube videos, on the IFB preacher clips. They are so fragile. And this Chris W. guy on Twitter, I'm going to give him an honorary mention. That guy has just despised me since that first program that we did, just because I was being nice to Bill Reeves and I was like ignoring him. And it's like, well, for one, I know who Bill Reeves is. Dude, I have no clue who you are. And he's just like throwing these accusations against Reeves. I'm thinking, why would I respond to random dude saying crazy stuff?
Right.
Sorry about that.
And both me and your wife were in the comments as moderators,
right,
responding to him. So it wasn't like he was being ignored. It was just you were doing this where we weren't, and we,
Yes. So the fragile Chris W., you've been mentioned. You're now also allowed to call in, and you will get a special opportunity to tell everyone how your feelings are not fragile, and that you are a man, and that you just had a legitimate reason to hate my guts. And so anyway, well, let's go ahead and So that's next week. Be listening next week and call in. Hopefully we don't get too many. Actually, trolls can be actually more entertaining. Right. Might be more entertaining if we get trolls. I just hope we don't have to, edit anything out. But we got some nasty trolls out there. But anyway, so let's go to our preaching clip of the week. So this week we are having Pastor Tom Gibson made preaching clip of the week. He is pastor of the North Liberty Baptist Church in North Liberty, Iowa. And this is a pastor. I've known him my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. Great guy. Preached a fantastic sermon about the identifying the fruit of false prophets. And it was a really good message, a lot of good insight in there. And so right now, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
The preacher featured on this clip is not necessarily endorsed by Pastor McMurtry or the Spirit of Liberty broadcast, nor does the preacher being featured necessarily endorse this broadcast or Pastor McMurtry. The makers of the Spirit of Liberty broadcast just heard this clip and thought,
"That's good preaching."
Number 3, boundaries are considered legalism. Boundaries are considered legalism. Let me give you true legalism. Legalism is attaching the law in order for you to be saved. An example of this, some came in and tried to teach those that Paul had taught, and they came in saying that they had to be circumcised in order to be saved. Well, that's bringing in part of the law to salvation, and Paul had to go back and say, no, you don't, because salvation is by grace through faith. Legalism is when you attach a work, you must do this in order to be saved. You must, it could be get baptized, you must, whatever the case may be, it's attaching some sort of a work. We do not attach a work to salvation, but I'll tell you what we do. We attach godly living with trying to serve God, because if you're going to sit under that tree, there's going to be a fruit that is produced under that tree. You cannot be attached to the vine and not have the vine influence you. And so to those that sit under the false teaching, holiness is not an absolute must, sin is never absolutely wrong, and all boundaries are considered legalism. Verse number 12, they speak evil of the things that they understand not. Boy, if that doesn't describe the liberal movement in our world today. They speak evil of the things that they understand not. Boundaries are considered legalism. Let me help you with some details. Boundaries concerning outward appearance are mocked. I mean, if you want to know the fruit of false teaching, start talking about boundaries considered how we look on the outside. And if they start mocking that, they're not sitting under the right tree. If they start ridiculing and laughing and mocking, oh, you're one of those. You're one of those. You have to look different. You have to dress different. Well, I have liberty. Yeah, we were warned about that liberty in 2 Peter chapter 2. The liberty that keeps you in a life struggling with sin. The boundaries concerning outward appearance are mocked. You start talking about gender identity and the modesty of, when I'm talking about gender identity, I'm talking about biblically, a man ought to look like a man and a woman ought to look like a woman. That's God's law. That is God's plan. And I understand some people really get taken off, but it is still God who said that it is not good for a man to dress in women's apparel and for a woman to wear that which pertaineth to a man. I didn't say that. God said that. That was God's heart. That was God's plan. That was God's desire. And somehow when you bring that up, oh, legalism. No, it's not attached to salvation, but it's the heart of God, obviously. Obviously, it's something God cares about. But if you start talking about outward appearance and they instantly go, that's legalism, and you become mocked, well, it gives you a good idea of what kind of fruit it is. The modesty of a woman, mention the word modesty about a woman and see what kind of response you get, and it'll tell you what kind of tree they're sitting under.
That's good preaching.
All right. So very good preaching clip there from Pastor Tom Gibson and from the North Liberty Baptist Church in North Liberty, Iowa. Appreciate him covering that subject. And giving the true definition of legalism. I mean, that word is getting thrown around a lot these days.
Yeah.
A lot.
Constantly changing the definition of it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, the thing is, if we're allowed to change definitions of words, I can call you whatever I want.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so, but, he's right. It is, the fact that people would get triggered by somebody preaching that men ought to dress like men and women ought to dress like women, something wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's really weird. And the thing is, in the IFB has always been known for standing strong on gender distinction. And one of the things too, some of these guys got mad when I use the term queer when describing them. But when I talk about queers, I don't always mean homosexuals. Often I use that term for the trendies because of the fact that they're often very flamboyant and effeminate.
Yeah, they are.
And I never can do good imitations, but they always just kind of have that, you do a trendy voice. Come on, are you ready for the trendy voice? I can't do a good trendy voice.
I'm ready for it, but I'm saving it.
You saving it? Oh, yeah. They all just kind of talk the same way, and these people all say they were from the IFB. It's like, okay, so when you were in the IFB, did you preach that way? Did you talk that way? That because the thing is, in the IFB, that doesn't fly. No. So I want to ask these people, why is it that when you leave the IFB, you have to become all effeminate and start talking? Why can't you still talk like a man? Why can't you talk with a deep voice? Why do you sound like a chipmunk? Why do you sound? What is with this desire to do such a high pitched voice? And it really is. It's weird to me, and it makes me wonder: were these people ever in the IFB? And if they really were, did they talk like that when they were there?
I think there's people that legitimately were in the IFB, and then there's others that just never were at all. And it's very evident when you see these people.
Right.
Like the way that they interact with you, the way that... I think that here's the thing. The IFB does have some things in it where, people can reasonably get hurt. Honestly, I can't think of anything that would ever make me cease to be a fundamental Baptist. But if I was a fundamental Baptist and, my daughter or my son gets molested and then it's covered up, that's going to be a real test to see whether or not I'm going to continue to be a fundamental Baptist. And there are people that have legitimate hurt and legitimate pain from situations like that. And so I can understand that. But these guys that sit back and complain about how they were raised in a Christian home and, they had they were a woman, they had to wear dresses all the time, and what oppression it is to just have to wear a dress wherever you go, and it's so embarrassing. That kind of stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And those people that complain about that are upset about godly parents coming to influence them and godly parents putting boundaries in their lives to protect them because they loved them, those people are ridiculous. They have no idea what they really had.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And I get some of the draws that the world has. I just don't get, there are some sins that, tempt all of us and that tempt me specifically, but it's like this desire to just be flamboyant. Yeah. I don't get it.
It's weird.
It doesn't make sense to me. And so when I see it, I refer to it as queer. I might call somebody a queer, but I don't know. If I call you a queer, doesn't mean I think you're a homosexual. It just means I think you're
acting like one. You look like one.
Right. Yeah. Look like one, dress like one, talk like one.
You don't belong behind the pulpit.
No. It's revolting watching these guys preach that way. And the thing is too, you never see one of these effeminate types getting up preaching behind a pulpit of wood. It's always with the little bistro table.
Yeah.
So again, I don't understand, that's just one of those things I don't get. I don't get it. Somebody's have to explain it to me. I don't know if they're just trying to fit in with the culture, trying to be, non-threatening.
Right, more welcoming.
Yeah.
They think that's...
Yeah, because it's like, I've seen that too at restaurants and stuff where you go to talk to the cashier that's taking your order and you'd swear 100% homo. But then when he's talking to you with his polite voice, he sounds like a homo. But then when he's talking to his coworkers, he's talking normal.
Yeah, it's weird that people think that, talking like a homo is more inviting and friendly. When I hear someone talk like a homo to me, I just want to leave.
Now, we will get laughed at for saying talking like a homo, but understand Joe Biden's on our side on this one. Have you ever heard the clip of him talking about the waiter with homosexual tendencies that talks with a little bit of a lisp, and he's like he's stereotyping just as bad as we are? It is hilarious. It's one of the famous Joe Biden gaffes.
Do they seriously get offended about that?
Yeah, they did.
They think that talking like
No,
a homo
not
is
the trendies, but just like the world, you know, and the whole, yeah. But no, I mean, that was a gaffe when Biden did that.
Yeah.
But the thing
I've
is,
seen that before.
Biden was right.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So this isn't just us saying this, all right? The president-elect also agrees with us on this.
Holds one of the highest offices.
Who got 80 million votes.
81 million.
81 million. And so this isn't just us throwing out a fringe thing that only we think, all right? There's a way to talk like a homo, and the trendies sound just like them. Many of them. So anyway, well, let's go ahead and go to our We Ain't Changing segment. Now this one, all right, the IFB probably liking me going after the trendies and all that kind of stuff, but this is where I just get everybody mad at me. But I'm sorry, this is the trend. I don't like it. I do not agree with this, and I'm telling you, it's getting out of hand. I could have given a ton of examples. I mainly just focused on one church, and because I think they crossed some lines here. Okay, this is my opinion, and again, you know, if you do this, if another church does this, I'll still be nice to them. You know, I don't think they're heretics or anything, but when it comes to our church, we ain't changing. We're not doing it. So go ahead and start that next segment.
We ain't changing!
For our trend of the week, we're going to look at bringing in politicians and honoring them inside churches. Now, this is something that's been going on for a long time. When I first noticed it started shortly after 9/11, when they would bring in first responders, military people, and then they would bestow all kinds of honor on them, and it made for a great way to get in the newspaper. And over time, it became a bigger thing in more churches, and eventually it went from first responders to where they were even bringing in politicians. And back in 2014 at the Spiritual Leadership Conference at Lancaster Baptist Church, hosted by Paul Chappell, they brought in the city of Lancaster and they honored them, and the Christian Law Association gave them a Defender of the Faith Award. And here is an article about that very thing that you can look up. And you will see that what was going on is there was objections to the use of Jesus Christ and his name in the prayers, and the people in the city, they took a stand and fought to be able to invoke the name of Jesus Christ in their prayers. However, though, you know, we see in this press release that while that is what they did, while they did win that case, you'll notice in the end here it says November 10th, 2009, the City Council further decided to submit to city voters a ballot measure which asked, in response to a recent complaint with respect to invocations that contain reference to Jesus Christ, shall the City Council continue its invocation policy in randomly selecting local clergy of different faiths to deliver the invocation without restricting the content based on their beliefs, including references to Jesus Christ. So it was still okay for any religion to come in and pray to any God. They just got it where you were allowed to specifically mention Jesus. Now, while you might say that's a victory for religious freedom, I don't know that we can call that defending the faith. Our faith shows that Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. Jesus Christ is the only mediator between God and man. He is the only one that we should be praying to. We should not be referencing other gods. And so if you want to make an argument that this was a victory for religious freedom, you could do that, but I would not call this defending the faith. But they did. They brought them in, gave them this award, and this type of thing is become extremely common, and it's getting ridiculous to where now churches are even allowing political candidates running for office to speak in their churches. Now let's look at some examples. A great example from North Valley Baptist Church, who, by the way, when this took place, this was on November 1st of 2020, right before Election Day. This is a church that is meeting outside because the government won't let them meet inside. They have been fined. They have been persecuted by the government, and yet watch them fall all over themselves, honoring these politicians of all different faiths, all different backgrounds, while letting them speak in their church, which is supposed to be reserved for religious purposes, for worship purposes. And then they're wondering why they're getting attacked politically. Well, maybe it's because of all the political stuff they're doing in their church. So let's just look at a few examples. So first off, notice here they are meeting outside. And right here, Brother Alvin Martinez, who's a great singer, by the way, singing America the Beautiful. They're walking around with their American flags, showing their patriotism and their great love for the country that has been fighting them, that has been harassing them, that has been just walking all over them. They are meeting outside. There's people sitting outside. They're all wearing masks. I saw people wearing masks and face shields in this video, while a bunch of politicians running for office are allowed to get up and speak and promote their candidacy. And so here's some examples.
This is my wife, Daisy. My name is Kansen Chu. I'm currently serving as a state assembly member, and I'm coming home to run for county supervisor in District 3.
So excited to see this. Looks like we are back to normal, and this is how it's supposed to be. Myself, hello,
there was a politician trying to tell them they're back to normal when they're meeting outside.
For the West Valley and Mission College Board of Trustees.
Shameless plug for Trump.
My name is Kathy Watanabe.
Permitting the women to speak in church since they're running for office.
I currently serve as the council member for District 1.
Go ahead, bro.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Barv, and I'm running for City Council in Santa Clara District 6. I'm a proud Republican endorsed by the Republican Party, and I am a huge supporter of our President, Donald J. Trump. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Our next candidate's ready here at the microphone. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. It's so lovely to be around those that believe in the higher power and the call of service. Again, my name is Harbir Bhatia. I'm running for Santa Clara District 1.
Now notice how that last one talked about believing in a higher power. Obviously, these were not Christians just speaking there. You've got a guy wearing a towel on his head, probably of the Sikh religion, and yet here they are promoting their candidacy in church, and yet this church is on the front lines standing up for religious freedom while they're using their church to allow politicians to come in. And I'm telling you right now, this type of thing is what's going to get churches in trouble. This is not what we are there for. We are not here to promote politicians, to promote the Republican Party. That is not why we're here. We are here to speak out against wickedness that's going on, encourage those that are doing good. I'm all for being patriotic. I love my country, but there's a time and a place for these things, and bringing in politicians, honoring them in the house of God for church services, I think it's out of line. And when it comes to this trend, all I can say is,
we ain't changing!
So what y'all think of that?
That's the most revolting thing I've ever seen. When I saw because I've seen some of the stuff from North Valley. I was following them pretty close and everything was initially going down. But, you know, when I see those American flags being carried around and everything, that I personally don't like that. And it's not because, for all the old pads guys out there, I'm offended at the American flag. Mm-hmm. I'm offended at seeing God being lowered or made equal to the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Because literally, in some of these churches, you know, this stuff just makes me mad. In some of these churches, you know, you can get up and listen to a pastor preach a sermon, And, he can be ripping on homos, or he can be, ripping on anything, ripping on alcohol, ripping on fornication. And you just have people sitting in the church just dead silent, not saying anything, quiet, not doing anything. And then it's just, I believe in standing for the flag. And everyone just, amen, getting wild about it. They really care deep about that. Or, we ought to stand up and we ought to be patriotic citizens. And that gets these people fired up. They don't put the Lord above themselves. They don't put the Lord above the Republican Party. They basically make the Republican Party out to be God's party. And they try to make God conform to their will, to the point where you don't have them getting excited about doctrinally filled preaching. You don't have them getting excited about the Bible. Even the song, I Have Been Blessed. It's got like 4 verses to it, and 3 out of the 4 of them are great. One of them is about America worship. But guess which one has everyone the most fired up and screaming amen during the song? That's probably when they get up and start running the aisles, is the America worship verse. Because fundamental Baptists lately have gotten their priorities completely mixed up to where they're mixing patriotism and God and elevating patriotism above God, to the point where you literally have Jack Trieber there inviting a guy of a completely different religion that doesn't even believe in Jesus Christ speak behind his pulpit and endorse him as a political candidate.
Yeah. It was
unbelievable.
Yeah. I was blown away. That was on November 1st. It was on a Sunday. And again, I like a lot of the patriotic, flag waving stuff, but at a political rally,
right.
At a county fair,
stuff doesn't belong in church.
But in church, and then the thing is too. So here we are, where they especially are fighting all these battles with the government. Trying to tell the government's trying to tell them, we can tell you what to do, like we're telling all these other businesses. They're trying to claim First Amendment, freedom of religion, all that kind of stuff. But then they're using their platform literally to promote politics and political candidates and things like not even political ideas, okay? But I mean, like a party, political candidates. Said, I'm all for preachers getting up and preaching on the current events and what's going on in the day, and calling out wickedness that's going on in government. I'm 100% for that.
I think it's important because sometimes I see people get irritated when there is preaching about politics, but it's like in this past year in 2020 and now we're in 2021, there's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. And I think that it's doing a disservice to people when you just pretend like nothing's going on.
Right.
It's important because people are concerned about this stuff, and rightfully so. It's been crazy what's happened. So addressing these things and talking about them is good, I think, to give people a peace of mind. But don't point them to the Republican Party to get their consolation and peace. Point them to God. I mean, good night, man. If you are out there and you're just a staunch Republican, what happened with Trump, man? He was supposed to stop the steal. Everything's supposed to be moving on forward. But it's like you're going to get disappointed eventually if you just trust in that. Put your faith back on God.
Right.
Or in the case like that, literally insulted while you're having a service outside.
Yes.
And one of them says we're back to normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these politicians,
everyone's
man,
wearing masks, stuck in their cars, trapped. People are carrying American flags 6 feet apart from one another, wearing masks. Half the politicians that got up and spoke are wearing masks the whole time. Like, well, we're pretty much back to normal.
Yeah.
Just like we were before all this started.
Yeah. The one guy in the beginning of the video, he had his mask down below his chin. It was because he was playing the horn. And again, I'm not picking on them for being outside, wearing masks. They were trying to do whatever they could do to keep the government off their back. But at the same time, while you're jumping through all these hoops that they realize is they don't have any right to tell them to do these things, why would you bring these clowns in and let them speak in your church, promote their candidacies? I mean, and do all the flag waving stuff in a time like this. And I get it. The previous generation, I think the flag means a little something different to them than it does now, but at the same time, they've crossed some lines here. And when it comes to our local police, I've been thankful for them and how they've handled things this year. They've been a blessing, but at the same time too, I'm not going to bring him into the church service and honor him there. You know, if our community does something for him, I might go as a citizen and participate, you know, as an individual, might do some things, but it's like, you got to keep church for church stuff.
Yes.
And a lot of this stuff too, it is a publicity stunt originally, you know, bringing in the first responders. It almost always gets you in the newspaper. I saw several examples of it when I was looking at it online. You know, they do write-ups and stuff. So it's advertisement for your church. And I'm all for advertising, but, you know, we've got to keep things, you know, in their place where they belong.
Yeah, and I mean, what are you advertising when you're advertising?
It'd be great advertisement if we brought acrobats into a church service.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing, though. These same guys that just did that will lose their minds, and rightfully so, on trendies for like hosting like a rock concert, church, or anything like that. It's like, what's the difference when you bring in a politician with a towel on his head to speak? What are you advertising to the people? Hey, everybody's welcome, you know. We're just here to worship the higher power.
Yeah.
Literally, you had a guy stand up behind your pulpit and talk about how we're all in agreement with the higher power. That is so wicked.
Yeah, I know. In a church of Jesus Christ,
an independent, fundamental King James Baptist church.
Yep, and I mean, I guess the women weren't behind the sacred desk when they were speaking, but I mean,
that was the sacred desk in place. The intermittent sacred desk outside.
Well, no, because they had like the main spot, and then they had them like in all these different areas. So they weren't actually behind the sacred desk or the pulpit. But at the same time, you know, it was permitted to speak in church, and it was a church service.
Yeah.
You know, this was on a Sunday night. You know, right before the election. And, you know, when you get that involved in those things, you know, don't be surprised when the government comes along and is like, you know, if you're, you know, doing all these type of things with these candidates and influencing elections like this, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I think we have some say in what you do.
Pulling your tax exemption.
Yeah.
And we can decide what you're going to do because you are using yourself as a platform for a government, a political party.
There's a difference between speaking on the issues, because we do have freedom of speech and calling things out. And, you know, there's a difference between that and giving a candidate running for office your pulpit to promote their candidacy. And so I don't know, too. I mean, I doubt all those people were Republicans. I don't know if it looked like they were letting everybody. I didn't even show all the ones they had. It looked like they were letting everybody. You know, it was like in order to be fair. But okay, I get why some people like some Republicans. But at the same time, I ain't letting no Democrat get up. And so, you know, I'm not giving equal opportunity. So you know what? They get zero opportunity.
Imagine imagine in that event, like someone stands up and talks about like, we want to fight for the women's right to choose or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you're right there. They might as well say it. I mean, in a place like that, the political candidate would probably know better than to stand up and say something like that. That's not going to help them out there anywhere. It's like, you're getting right to that place, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes me sick. Literally, it makes me sick to see that stuff.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff's innocent. We're not changing on it. We're not bringing the firemen in and all that stuff. You know, we're not going to bring in a bunch of nurses, things like that. I'd be afraid they do try to do one of their dancing video things while they were here or something like that, but instead of helping sick people. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's getting out of hand. Lines are being crossed, and lines were crossed there.
Oh, 100%.
You know, there's no doubt about that. And so, Baptists get this way every election year, you know, and that's why people get so excited, because they're watching news, they're watching politics all week. They're not reading their Bible, they're not listening to sermons all week. So when somebody gets up and they, you know, hit the liberals or the Democrats, they go all crazy. Where if they hit a false doctrine or something like that, nobody's been thinking about that during the week.
No,
so
it's not about that.
Yeah,
we need to unite for something greater.
Yeah,
that's their mindset.
Right. So yeah, it's hard to watch that stuff, but it's very common, and that is a very prominent independent fundamental Baptist church. That is not just some small church somewhere that took it too far. You know, we didn't go just find some backwoods inbred Ruckmanite church, you know, out in the sticks somewhere. You know, this is North Valley Baptist Church.
Jack Hyles said of Jack Trieber that he was the most important man on that side of the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
next to him. Basically.
Yeah. Pretty much. But yeah. So anyway, well, hey, I hope y'all enjoyed this show today, and hope everybody has a great Sunday at church. And go there, be a blessing, and make sure you are back next week, and be ready to call us and get your 2 cents in. And again, let me say, if we ever talk about you on this show in a negative way, you have the right to call in and tell us off. Who will be the first to take us up on that? I think most people will be too scared because they're afraid we're going to sabotage them. I'm not going to do it. If I say something about somebody, I should deal with the consequences. And I say all the things I do about people, when everybody knows they can find me every week. Anybody could come find me on a Sunday and punch me in the nose. I wouldn't see it coming. A lot of people out there talking trash about me. I have no idea I have no idea who some of these people are. No. Most people come after me on Twitter or these anon accounts. Yeah. They're all so brave.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. Or they put a name but no description of who they actually are.
Yeah, no picture of them.
Unless you actually know what church they're in or what connection they have. You don't know who they may as well be anon.
Right. So we named Chris W. I don't even know his last name, and the church split guys. So they have an official invite, and I'm serious. Somebody take me up on it, because once somebody takes me up on it and people see how I handle it, I think it will encourage some of the others to come forward. Because I'm a super nice guy. I'm probably the nicest guy anywhere.
Nicest, most humble,
right?
Smartest.
I mean, how would Trump say it? I'm probably the nicest pastor since Timothy.
Jesus.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. No,
Trump,
because even Trump wouldn't go that far. He said, next to Jesus,
he'd lose too many votes.
So,
he had his, his big thing, like, I'm not the most important person there is. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And everyone's just like, oh, the president said Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that got the Baptists really excited when he did that. But anyway, well, hey, again, thank you all for watching. We will see you all next Sunday.